Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Minority Reportz podcast and digital series. I am your host, Mona Sheikh. I'm very excited for my guest today because I've had the good fortune of connecting with her thanks to another mutual, lovely human being and a lovely, very talented, amazing director and filmmaker, Tara Meal. Shout out to Tara Meal. Very excited to chat with this amazing director. She has been a director for Disney along one of her many gajillion credits. So I'm very excited to chat and welcome my very talented friend, Laura James. How are you?
Hi, I'm really good. Thank you so much for
having me. Yeah, I'm very excited to have you. I was just like, am I going to say a Laura James or am I saying Laura James?
You can say whatever. You just can't find me on the internet if you look me up as Laura James because of this woman who won America's Next Top Model, which was not me, by the way. There's a lot of Laura Jameses, it turns out. So for SAG and the DGA, I had to add an A in front of my name, which only causes more confusion, but whatever, it's fine.
Got it. Yeah, it's funny you said that because when I went on social media and I was looking for Laura James, I was like, that's a lot of Laura Jameses out here.
There's so many. I can't even find myself. Okay.
That's how bad it is. When I put the A Laura James, is that stand for something or is it just a Laura James?
It could be that, but my mom's name is Angela, so I just added an A in front of it to give her a little shout out.
Got it. Well, I'm a fan of yours. I think we've just briefly known each other recently, and I think what you've done is what you are is amazing. And I wanted to actually touch upon you and your career and why the hell are there such few female directors in Hollywood? What is that about, Laura? Can we kick off with that?
Oh, Mona, so you're giving me the softball questions to start out with, I see. The reason that there are so few female directors is because it's a job where you get to be in a leadership position. Okay. It's a job that makes a lot of money, and dudes have been doing it a long time. Dudes have been doing it, and they've been really successful. And when you have a long resume of doing it for a long time, it's hard to break into that. And dudes are behind the money that is getting decided on who gets to have an opportunity, right? What movies get made, what the audience wants to see. Now, this is changing, which is super exciting. But for now, that's what it's been. And so little by little, we're making gains where women are making really interesting and cool films that everybody wants to see. And we're learning that, there was a really closed circuit situation going on, and it's being opened up more and more, which is so exciting.
Do you think that's in part because of Me Too movement and Time's Up? Do you think that has played a role in that conversation?
For sure. Before that, my understanding is that even before that, though, there was a investigation by the EEOC, and there was a big movement with directors at the Directors Guild of America, a bunch of women, powerful, amazing women who were calling out the discrimination and the lack of hiring. And so it was sort of in play before that, but definitely like an awareness kicked up in a bigger conversation after Me Too about all the women who have been marginalized and all the ways that in leadership positions women are kept out of that. And I think it did have a big impact for bringing that conversation to so many more places than it was before. Because it felt like for a while that the same women were saying the same thing to the same people. And everyone's like, yeah, it's just you guys. It must just be you. Right? Because a couple of other women have jobs. 4 other women have jobs. So if you're not getting hired, it's probably because you suck, which is obviously not the case. But that's what it feels like.
Yes.
Right? When you keep not getting the job over and over again, you can't sustain your life. Because now it's also like that gets into economics.
That's right.
If you can't make a living at being a director, then you're going to have to go be something else, an executive, anything else. You're going to have to figure out how to feed yourself and clothe yourself and house yourself. So it's like, it's this endless yucky cycle that has been really hard, that finally we're getting the teeniest bit of movement on.
Right. When you say that the women who went and complained to the EOC about, the discrimination and everything, were these directors and these women, were they executives? Were they female directors? And were
female
they the
directors.
ones the female directors? And were they working at the time when all this was happening, or were the ones who were not getting the jobs?
I think they were the ones more or less who were not getting the jobs, who had like an opportunity, right? Had done something that in any other instance, and in many cases for a dude, had turned into the next level of getting the next job, the higher paying job, the better job, right? This ladder to success. The women were unfortunately not able to leverage those early successes in their careers, right? And so they were people who were maybe not working at that time, but should have been working. And it's really to prove creative space, right? That you should have had that opportunity, because it's subjective, right?
Right.
So it gets tricky.
I mean, it's subjective by the people who are defending why they keep hiring males, but it's not. But it's very objective to the female directors who are not getting the job. It's like, look, you're giving, just like an assistant director, you just bumped him up to director while I've been grinding my ass for 15 years. Like, what's up?
Yeah. Correct.
It's interesting, it's interesting, Laura. I was having this conversation yesterday with a female comic. She's a South Asian female comic, and we were having this discussion of how dudes on the road in the stand-up world, a guy could be, one young male comic could be hanging out with a headliner for like a year or so, and then all of a sudden he's the opening act for him, right? While comedians have been like grinding their ass, like myself, for 10 plus years, and would never even be considered. Or if we are considered, it comes with some kind of a sexual favor or some kind of a sexual innuendo or sexual thing. So I want to ask you, in the directing world, I mean, is that a thing where, I mean, I would think like female directors are in such a powerful position. Like, you're a female director, you go and sit down in a chair and talk to an executive. Executive's like, if you sleep with me, I'll give you this gig. Is that a thing?
I have never had that experience, and I am sure that people have. Sadly, that's reserved a lot for actresses, more than it is maybe for directors. But there is, this business, as you know, is all about favors, and it's all about power and the power dynamics that go along with that. So if you are not going to go along with, then you will be punished. That's just how it rolls here. And so whether it's sexual favors or whether it's like, you're not going to, say something about something, but certainly most, probably sadly, female directors have stories when there was a time before they were the director, and maybe even when they were the director, because, being a woman in this business is fraught.
No, really? No.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I mean, that kind of sexual thing, like, what's his name? Harvey Weinstein, trying to lure actresses into his hotel rooms, and then, and trying to do like weird, gross sexual things. Right. I mean, I would think like, if you're a female director, you're more in a position of power where you're just like, are you out of your, like, I can't imagine an executive sitting across from Patty Jenkins is like, so if you like.
You'd be surprised though.
Really?
I mean, I'm not saying that happened to Patty at all.
Crazy to me.
I'm just saying that I would absolutely not be in any way surprised if Patty had a story like that, even with all the success that she's had, because there's it's, power is a weird and interesting thing, and women with power doesn't mean that they're automatically respected the same way that men with power are.
Sure. I forget the executive. She was one of the studio executives at Paramount Studios. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember. I forget her name. Really beautiful, very attractive woman, and she was one of the only 2 studio executives ever that have ever had Paramount Studios. Anyway, in her book, she talked about how while she was the head of the studio, that another male, I believe it was a male actor, it was a star, who like took his pants off in front of her and was just standing there, and she was like, I'm the head of a studio. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's such an amazing question that none of us can answer. None of us can answer.
Do you know?
And it's not like you arrive. It's not like you arrive at a level where that shit stops. That's the problem. You know, it's not like you arrive to a leader. Like, you can be a producer, a prolific producer or director, or, you know, studio executive or runner of this country, whatever. You're still going to get some people who think that it's fine to treat you however they want to treat you. It's the weirdest.
You think Kamala Harris is gonna get a dick pic? Somebody's gonna flash her? She's 100%. The fucking vice president of the United States of America.
100% that's gonna happen.
I can't 100%. Imagine.
That, I'm sure she's probably already getting dick pics.
It's like people trying into her DM and shit.
Yeah, for sure. Also, you know, she's a very attractive woman, but women in power does not mean, you know, that we get respect. That's and even if we earn their respect, we still don't get it the same way. It's weird.
You know, Laura, it reminds me, recently Jennifer Lopez was talking about, I think it was like about a year ago. I mean, J-Lo is a star, right? She's a mega star. And she was talking about some executive was visiting her while she was like in the middle of like wardrobe. Like, it was like she was trying to, and then he goes to her, something to the effect of, hey, do you see this dress? And I think this dress would suit her. And she was like, okay, let me go change. He goes, no, you can just change right in front of me. And she was like, what? She's like, no, I'm gonna go to the changing room.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah. Correct.
So what? I'm stumped.
There's no answer to that. I mean, we just don't even have time or the credentials to get into like the systemic way in which women are not treated with respect from all kinds of different ways that make no sense.
I can't imagine Kamala Devi Harris getting like visiting, you know, like a foreign country, and then the leader of that country is like, want to see my schlong? And you're like, I don't want to see your dick, dude. I'm here to do fucking business. Like, what?
Yeah. Yes, it will happen. Somewhere along the line, that might happen. And when Kamala writes her book about it, and we're going to be like, told you. Dudes.
Have you known fellow female directors who've told stories like, oh girl, let me tell you what that bullshit was?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. We tell lots of stories. And it's not always sexually based. It's not always sexual harassment, although there's a good deal of that microaggressions around sexual harassment and stuff like that. But it's a lot about respect and disrespect. Those are, you know, and just being generally disrespected, I think is a bigger conversation that we have a lot more often.
What has been your kind of personal experience with, as far as like disrespect goes? I mean, you're a director, you're an established director. I mean, you have credentials, like you're solid. Like, what has been your experience with disrespect where you're like, I cannot fucking believe this person said this shit?
Well, I think that what I find most interesting around disrespect, I mean, there's a ton of stories that I cannot tell here, but I have so many examples. Wow. But I think what's interesting is that there's a double standard, right? And so when you look around and you watch, because like when you're a director, oftentimes you shadow, meaning that you go observe another director do their job on set, right? For those who don't know what that is. And when you do that, a lot of times you're shadowing a male director because there's more of them, right? Yeah. So when you're watching that and then you see that they are just offered the respect of that position upon arrival, where they say what they say and they're not questioned by other crew members in the same way, doubted or made to feel like smaller in front of crew by certain different levels of crew. And this is not like all the time, but there are just these ways in which women walk onto set and you kind of have to prove yourself. There's a super funny, Women in Film made these really funny little sketches called Flip the Script. And there's this one that makes me laugh because it's like so hilariously true, where it's an all-woman crew and a man walks in as the director and they first mistake him for like hair and makeup, which happens a lot. Like people will, you know, like we walk on set, women walk on set, they're like, oh, are you hair and makeup? Are you the scripty? Are you the, right? They don't know who you are, which is whatever. It is whatever, but they don't assume that you are the leader of this merry band of wonderful people. And so it's stuff like that. But anyway, the sketch is really funny because they do the reverse of how women get treated. You should check it out. It's pretty funny.
All right, I'll definitely check it out. So what is the conclusion? What did they think he was? He was the craft.
He keeps telling him that he's the director. They keep telling it and they finally let him do it, but they really disrespect him in a way that is like viscerally, you like really can appreciate what we go through when it's flipped. And I think that it calls it out for dudes.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna check it out. I had Tara Meal, thanks to shout out to Tara Meal. That's the reason I met you. One
She's
powerful
amazing.
woman knows another powerful woman.
Yes.
I was interviewing Tara, and Tara and I had this conversation. She was telling me about her experience being on set for for like, I believe it was like a Fox show, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And some show she was on, and she walks on, and the lead actor is like giving her a hard time. He won't just automatically give her the respect. He's doubting her direction. And I was just like, oh my God, Tara, like, how do you handle something like that? And she was just like, look, you know, you kind of have to, like, you know, you have to, you're still, you know, you try to handle it in the most delicate way possible, but you're also very firm about it. Like, look, this is, I am the leader of this, I am the captain, and you are going to listen to me. Like, this is how this works. But a man never would have to prove that. If you're a male director, it's automatic respect.
It is. It is. And actors are still going to test you. I mean, make no mistake. They're going to test all the directors for sure. That's just kind of how that goes. But we have to try extra hard. And the thing is, like, you got to be careful, right? Or it has been my experience that women need to be more careful about how you firmly push back and what is the right layer, because you got to be careful in the gender politics of things that you don't offend or upset that star, because if he walks off to his trailer and refuses to come out, you're fucked, right? So you don't want that to happen. So I use humor, like that's my thing. Luckily, I come from comedy and I try to use humor and, you know, to deflect and to, you know, rally people to my side, I guess. But, you know, we all have to find our different ways. But you got to be really conscious of like what it is you're doing and how you're doing it, to be mindful of what it is you need to get done, I guess.
I know you said that you have a lot of stories. Is there any one story you can maybe kind of bring up or divulge to be like, because I remember that story that Tara told me.
No, I don't have any stories that are proper to share yet. Until these people have passed away, I feel like I can't tell those stories.
Oh no, you don't have to mention names, but just like no names of any kind. Like just like, hey, I know. I got hired on this gig, I went, and then next thing you know, like people are just being douchebags for like becoming a woman.
No, I come from the school of if you don't have something nice to say, try not to say it at all, and not to glorify all of the horrible shit that's going on constantly. So I don't like to revisit that stuff all the time and keep sharing that, because there's so many other stories that are much more pleasant, and there are so many awesome things that have happened. So I don't like to ruminate too hard on those things. Just know that it happened. Just know that that bad things used to happen and it's less bad now. And, we have to be extra mindful and just twice as good, twice as fast, twice as awesome, 3 times as rad. Try harder, no more, and be like super awesome. That is what women have to do in every industry to get ahead.
Yes, and that's a very valid point, right? I mean, I was talking yesterday to the female comic about how, like, as female comics, we have just this one chance, right? You go up and you have to be like perfect, right? You get booked on a show and you better go up and just murder, right? There's no room for error. But dudes can go up there and just fuck up and be like, it's the crowd, it's not me. It's them, it's not me. And it's like, well, I went up and I fucking killed. Well, they like you because you're a woman, or they like you because you're South Asian, or whatever bullshit that they want to make up to feel good about. But they have a lot more room to play with versus us. So you would say that with the female directors, it's the same thing. It's like
absolutely
no error mark.
Yes. And Patty Jenkins was just talking about this in the media around being, concerned about the roles that, or, the jobs that she was taking, because women often don't get a second chance. And if your big thing after your first thing bombs in any way, you're done. Whereas with dudes, we know that's not the case. Like, there are plenty of dude directors who have done one thing, done their next thing, and it hasn't been great. And they still keep getting money over and over and over again to keep making things. And some of them are great and some of them are not great. That's the nature of what we're doing. You can't always predict how the box office is going to go. And it's not always your fault when things don't go as well as you think they're going to go. So it's unfortunate that you do get put in director jail. Other non-women get put in director jail as well, but women for sure get put in director jail, where you stay for a long time, possibly the rest of your career. It's not something, you might be there a couple of years, you might be there forever.
Whoa.
I think Catherine Hardwicke was talking about that too, even after directing Twilight. You know what I mean? Like, she thought that the whole, world would open up to her after Twilight. That thing was massively, humongously successful. And that was not her experience at all. So
did you get put in director? Did you get put in director's jail for it after that?
I don't think she didn't do a second movie. She didn't do the second Twilight. She wasn't asked back, or she chose not to. I'm not sure what the deal is behind that. But which, usually you get to stay with a franchise that you started. But neither her, or if we're talking about 50 Shades of Grey, the fan fiction version of Twilight, right? The Sam Taylor Johnson also did not continue with that franchise. A dude took over after that.
Interesting. I mean, that certainly is not the case with Fast and Furious, right? Fast and Furious is like, they're like, we're making the 16th Fast and the Furious, and it's the same dude, just like directing.
Is it the same dude?
I think
it's different dudes.
It's the Asian dude, right? The Asian director, isn't he the one who's been directing? Yeah. I
don't know if he did all of them, but I think he came back.
I think he came back and like did most of them. So M. Night Shyamalan got put in director's jail, I think, because he did a bunch of really good movies and then had a few crappy ones, and then they just put him in director's jail. And then we didn't see.
Did he go in director's jail, or is he still making a ton of movies? And he just made a TV show for Apple Plus called something with a doll. It's about a doll that's like that. Like, M. Night Shyamalan has not been in jail. He might have been in self-imposed exile, perhaps. I mean, I don't know him or anything like that, but it's not like after Signs, they were like, oh, sorry, dude, you're done. Like, if that was a woman and they made Signs and 4 people watched it, that would be that. You'd be out for a while. If not ever.
Do you think, Laura, that kind of margin of error would increase, or women would be given that same level of like room to play and grow if we had more female executives?
It's a great question. I like to think that's true. I like to think that the more we do have female executives and more women in charge of studios, more women deciding what we're going to see, I think that we then, as women storytellers, would get an opportunity to maybe not have a home run, but still get an opportunity to try another story, realizing that, you know, it's not just the director that makes a film. That's a lot of it, but there's also other, you know, factors involved.
Yeah, if it's a crappy script, there's only so much that a director can do with that.
True that.
There's only so much. How does it work, Laura, for directors? Like, is it the same as like you get repped by like CAA or William Morris, and then they're like, hey, we have a project we think you'll be really good for, but it also has, you know, a screenwriter that we rep, and then 4 actors that we also rep, and then you're like, all right, I think this is a good project, you know, and I'll do it? Or is it more like, well, you know, you kind of have to do it, like, because we want to.
I'm not repped at somewhere as fancy as all those places you just said. So Tara's like a way better person to ask about that because she's repped at somewhere super fancy. My place is smaller and they don't package. That's that whole packaging thing that everyone's all up in arms about right now. So I don't have that issue, but that is a thing. You know, if you're at a big place, there's going to be, you know, they're going to take from all their areas. We have these actors, we have these writers, we have these producers, we have this director, and we're going to put this whole thing together, as opposed to like, I'm at a place where they just rep directors only.
Right. I mean, look, you started off as an artist. Like, you started off as like in the improv world and then kind of transitioned into directing, correct?
Yes. Acting to improv to sketch to directing. Yeah.
Is that usually the passage for becoming a director? Or
there's people like a million ways to become a director. And usually the best way is through experience directing or experience on set, both of those things. So for example, if you work in film as some pathways are first AD, editor, script supervisor, producer, writer, those kinds of areas where you're on set, you're working with all the key players, you're working closely, you understand the system, you get what's happening, and you've made those relationships and those connections, then you're going to move up through your crew position and probably be able to leverage that into, especially for television directing, like a television job. If you want to be a director and you are trying to do feature films, you've got to connect with somebody who's going to fund you the money. And so, you know, either they're going to find you based on your reputation and your previous credits. You're going to do a pitch deck. You know, you're going to pitch yourself for it and talk about why you're the only one who can do that job and why you're the best one. And other people are going to be doing the same thing. And then hopefully you get hired to do that. And then you get to bring it to life. But theater directors can move up into directing. That's where I was sort of like I was directing sketch for a long time. So putting shows together, putting them up, you know, on their feet and then letting them go off on the circuit. The comedy circuit that they do. And so that was super helpful. And then we used to have a thing called Neutrino Project, which is a filmed improvised project, which is insane crazy pants. It's basically a Herald, for those of you who know improv, which is a 3-act structure. And we would have 3 groups with 3 cameras. And we would get, you know, suggestions from the audience, and we'd get objects. And then we'd like run out into the parking lot, right? Like run out of the theater, and we would have like 10-minute lead time where we would have to make a 2-minute piece of film that was like the beginning. I was like A group, let's say, and I would make the beginning part and B would make their part, and we'd run the tapes back into the theater so the audience would then watch it in real time. So you had like this certain time crunch, you'd edit it in camera. It was super fun and super amazing. And we used to do that as well. That was like insane and a blast.
I mean, it sounds like I would probably go bald because I'll probably be pulling my hair out. Like, I could never do something. I can stand in front of 50,000 or 60,000 people and tell jokes, but I can't do that, what you just described.
Yeah. It was really fun. Because you get 2 improvisers basically and a runner and me with the camera. So I was also like DP, camera operator, director of the story, and you wouldn't know what the other groups were doing. And then eventually, if I was like the A director, which I was, a lot of the time you'd have to pull the whole story together at the end with all the groups. And you'd be like, okay, what was yours about? What was yours about? What was yours about? Okay, everybody get together. Okay, this is what we're doing. It was so fun. It was
That
like, that's when I knew that I was like, I really need to get into film directing. Then I
yeah.
happen to have a friend who's a dude who had been my mentor for many, many years, was directing at Disney Channel. And he was like, I think you could do this. And I was like, I agree, but like, how am I going to get there? And
Uh,
so he suggested, and it was such a great suggestion, that I become a dialogue coach, which is an acting coach at Disney Channel. What they have for the young actors is somebody who really gets them ready for being on stage, helping them learn how to act sometimes, helping them mostly memorize their lines and be ready, because there's kid hours and there's all these restrictions. So making sure that they are super ready to go out there and nail it
yeah.
and get it done quickly and not fumble around on their lines or forget their blocking or any of that sort of stuff. You're there for them. But it's a little bit of everything too. It's a little cool aunt, camp counselor, guidance counselor, nurse. It's a lot of that sort of role, because you're with them for many, many years, and they're young people when you start,
Yeah.
young people when you're done. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was able to leverage that and those relationships into directing finally. So that was awesome.
I mean, that's pretty incredible. Like, what was the first show that you worked on at Disney?
It was the first show as a dialogue coach was Austin and Ally, where I started directing in the third season.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And that was you starting as a dialogue coach, and then you were just like, hey, I think I might be really good at directing this.
Yeah.
And there were
Yes.
we could too. You should come on in and do that.
It wasn't quite that easy, but yes, essentially that's what happened.
I just cut
Because I
things.
said it a little earlier on than like season 3, so it took a minute. But it was hard to get all the ducks to line up in a row. Even though I had been there, and even though I'd been there for every episode, and even though, it was still a lot. And my friend Bob, who was my champion and mentor, he threw his sort of like weight into it and was like, I really believe in her. And he was huge in making sure that opportunity came my way. So yeah.
Do you think, Laura, if Bob had not stepped in and kind of thrown his weight to be like, hey, that would you have been able to be given that opportunity? If Bob
Not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure. Because that was really what tipped it over.
Right. I mean, it's look, I think this is a thing that I've noticed in every, pretty much in every, when it comes to entertainment. I think in any profession, whenever a dude steps up and is like, this girl right here or this woman right here, she's worth her weight, people were like, yes, because he said it.
Yep, that's right. And he's super well respected, and they loved him, and they knew that I had a long relationship with him, and that, and so yes, his seal of approval, his stamp of endorsement was very important, and probably was the big difference.
Laura,
I would have maybe gotten there eventually, but he definitely helped me get there faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, stand-up comedy, directing, producing, I guess even acting, maybe acting's a little different, but I think the other three professions that I mentioned, I think a lot of people don't realize that, when you're a young male, like whether you're a producer or a stand-up comic or a director, guys don't have to worry about a biological clock. A dude could just be about to be fucking croaking at 85 and still like pump out like some glue, and then a woman could be impregnated and just like, I have his child. And it's just like, with us, it's not like that. There's a biological clock that's ticking. So we're fighting against all these odds of like, I'm a woman, I'm not getting these breaks because all the breaks are being given to dudes. And then on top of that, you're fighting the biological clock. Like, oh my God, nature is like not on my side. If I want a family, then I gotta make these sacrifices of maybe taking some time off from my career, or build myself up so much, or hustle so hard, or try to hustle so hard that I get to a point where if I want to take a break, it's not going to dampen my career. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes. All those things are true. Yes.
And I think a lot of people never really talk about the biological clock of women who are in these professions. It's like we have to we have to sacrifice. Like dudes don't have to sacrifice on a level that we do.
Not the same way. And I think that's really interesting you bring it up, because you're also talking a little bit about ageism sort of accidentally. But like sometimes if you're too young, then you don't know enough and you can't have an opportunity, right? Because you're too young, you're not experienced enough. And then when you get into your middle years, you've got some people have family things and they want to have a family and they've worked for a long time, and that becomes challenging to take a couple years off and then get back into the flow. You know, it's like double Dutch, you know, and you're standing on the edge of it and you like want to get back in, but like you can't get back in. And then there's also a certain amount of, you know, when you're old, whatever that is these days, which I don't even know what age is old anymore. Because
in Hollywood, it's like 28.
For actors, for sure. For directors, I'm not sure. And there's something about like if you have a bunch of experience.
Then, all right, Laura, it's
35. But there's also like you need to be older enough. You need to be old enough, or you know, perceived to be old enough to have the respect, but you can't be old because then you're not cool or something. I don't know. It's like there's so many tightropes to walk. It's hard sometimes to get anywhere.
That whole old thing, like, you know, like mature but not old. I think that's maybe that. Okay, mature but not old. Does that also apply to male counterparts though?
No.
Damn it, Laura.
No, Jimmy Burrows is 80 something years old and he directed every episode of Will and Grace before COVID for the last 2 seasons.
How old is
he? 80 something.
Wow. I did not even know that.
And he started directing like Taxi 100,000 years ago. He has like thousands literally of episodes of television and probably piles of money and perhaps some islands. I don't know what he buys with his, you know, like at some, no. So yes, I don't know any 84-year-old women that are directing off the top of my head.
I don't even know any 64-year-old women who are directing. I don't know an 84. Are you kidding me? I mean,
I don't know if he's 84. Let's see how old Jimmy Burrows is. Go ahead, keep talking.
Patty Jenkins must be what, in her early 50s, mid 50s tops?
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, she looks fantastic. She looks
and
amazing.
She's so cool.
I bet. She looks like the kind of lady that you can just sit down and just have a really great, just a great conversation. You can just tell she's so down to earth.
Yeah,
she's really kind of. I'm very excited about her directing Gal Gadot in Cleopatra. Very excited.
Right. I know, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, very, very excited about that. I just hope to God that they. I mean, I know that Wonder Woman 2 didn't get a lot of good reviews, but I really hope to God they don't put it in the director's jail of some kind for that. But it made money. It recouped the money.
And that will be helpful. And also, Patty is one of a handful of women who have directed films that are over $100 million budget. Wow. There's, I believe, it's something like Mimi Leader, Catherine Bigelow, Ava DuVernay, Patty Jenkins, and somebody else just got like an opportunity that was like a big deal. Like it's literally a handful of women who have had that opportunity.
Laura, what percent? I read some crazy number about the amount of percentage of female directors that are in Hollywood. I think it's less than 1%.
It's something super tiny. If we're talking about feature films like box office, things that have been released at the box office that are feature films, something about the amount of theaters and seats in theaters. Like, I don't know what the breakdown is exactly. I'm not a feature director, but it is appalling and it's shocking and also sadly not surprising because the number stays remarkably sadly low year after year after year after year.
You know, we were talking about the Burrows director of Will and Grace. It kind of reminded me of a conversation that I was having someone with about Jerry Seinfeld, right? Like Jerry Seinfeld did a Netflix special and then got paid. I was like, why? I was like, you could have just given that money away to like someone else. Like, You have so much money. Like, are you gonna take this to the fucking grave with you? You have so much money. So much money. You're the highest paid fucking comedian in the world. What in the actual fuck?
I don't know.
Fucking.
I wish there was a cap on money.
Is it greed, Laura? What is it? What is it? What is it?
I don't know. I'm not a dude, so I don't know. But you notice, or I've noticed just in my peers, that women seem to be centered. And this is non-scientific, by the way. But the women that I know, they seem to be interested in quality of life and work-life balance and arriving at a place where they have the resources, money being that resource a lot of times, to enjoy their lives, whether that means going on vacation to Tahiti or, you know what I mean? Like always, going and doing an Airbnb in Paris or whatever with their families. Like I noticed that women desire that and prioritize that. Whereas the men, I notice, again, non-scientifically, are much more interested in working to prove that they still are important, that they are relevant, that they're needed, that they're wanted, that they're sexy men. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
I mean, every time I see I'm sorry. Like, look, kudos to Jerry Seinfeld for all the achievements that he's had.
Sure.
But when I see Jerry Seinfeld, I'm like, another fucking special? You could have given it to somebody like myself. You could have given it to at least 10 other fucking female comedians or 10 other comedians, period, that you could have taken that small portion of that money and just given them that opportunity.
Yeah. Or does he have like women open for him that he leaves at the front of his thing? No, of course not.
No. Laura, he got confronted. I forgot, this was like an ESPN a while back or something.
Yeah.
ESPN, I forget where this interview was taking place. And this woman asked him, she was the interview, she was the host, and she asked him, she was like, now we have people of color coming up, women coming up. How important is their point of view in comedy? He goes, it's not important. He goes, it's not important. Why? Why do we need to have that? You just need to, and I got so upset, Laura, I just turned it off. And I was just like,
you have to. Yeah.
I was just like, this is the man who's the highest paid fucking comedian right now. Okay. He has so much pull. Maybe I'm just ending my career right now as I'm speaking about this, but
I hope not. I hope
not, but I'm like speaking the truth. But look, I don't personally know the man, so I don't have anything personal against, Jerry Seinfeld, so I can't say that. But I'm just looking at it from the outside, and I'm just like, Jerry, you have so much money. Like, you are in a position of power where you can help like so many other new talent come up and give the world this, gift of art that you are in the position to do. But yet you keep collecting all this money where you could have easily helped another, person out.
Yes.
Like, so many comedians would love this opportunity.
He could have a comedy special night where he has 10 comedians do 10 minutes for Netflix. The Jerry Seinfeld sponsored comedy extravaganza. Yeah. He could do that.
Sure.
But he doesn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, I've never heard, I do have to give a shout out to Patton Oswalt, and Patton Oswalt is one of the realest. He really is one of the realest.
Yep.
His agent's assistant came to see my show. She discovered me at the Comedy Store, and went and pitched me to Patton Oswalt himself.
Wow.
And showed my video to him, and Jerry, not Jerry. Patton Oswalt was just like, yep, book her. Have her open for me for like 3 nights straight. Like, I opened for him at Levity, like in Oxnard, right? For each night it was a packed room of like 300 or 400 people each night, right? Packed.
Yeah.
And it's just me and Patton Oswalt. And Patton didn't have to do that. He doesn't know me from nothing, right?
Yeah. Right.
And for him to like just be so compassionate and being so kind. So that's just an example of how to, you're in a position of power. You have the ability to give younger talent,
right,
this opportunity. Like I cherish that so much that I'm like, wow, like that's a credit that I have that I would have never really even had the opportunity. Right?
Yeah. And he gave it to you and you ran with it. Just like
Right.
men are given that opportunity to get in the door and then prove themselves. And if we can't get in the door, we can't prove ourselves. And
That's right.
sometimes we're going to kill it, and sometimes we're going to be less awesome. And then we still need another chance after that. Because the
That's
other
right.
thing is you get better at doing something after you've done it a bunch of times. You don't just do it one time and then that's it.
That's correct.
You know
That's
how to do it now.
That's correct. And again, it goes back to the margin of error, right? The margin of error for, you know, male comedians or male directors, male producers, so much more than female, right? We have to do it first time. We have to get it right while the biological clock is ticking and while you're probably like slapping away a dick that it's coming your way. I mean, it's just so much shit to
just describe my life. That's my life. Everything about it.
Slapping a dick away, talking to your eggs to be like, hang on, I'm working on it. And then like you're just like trying to like juggle all these fucking things, right?
Yes.
And then, you know, showing up on set and then some dude's like, I don't have to respect you because you have a vagina. And you're just like, nah, dude, I'm the fucking director. Like, hey, talk to me, you know?
Yes.
It's a lot. I'm exhausted. I need to take a nap now, Laura. I'm burnt out.
You're like describing some of the not nice days of my life. I feel that hard.
Fuck. Have you ever just had like a fucking meltdown where you're like, I'm in a goddamn moment right now, or I'm gonna stab somebody?
No, I mean, you can only ever do that very, very internally. Like if you ever did that outwardly, you would literally never work again.
Yeah.
There's a female director who I'm not even going to say because I don't like to keep this stupid, dumb story alive, but it is said that she was seen crying off, not even on the set, like behind a piece of scenery somewhere. And that is a story that has been told 100 million times to make it seem like she is not competent at her job. She's a well-known director. It's a thing that people say all the time, like, oh yeah, well, did you hear that about, you know, it's like, we also have to stop these stories. We have to stop continuing these stories. And I talked to my male friends about, especially crew members who were on set, because I think that some of the things that we want to change are being careful about how we talk about people. This is true of stand-up comedy. This is true of directors, actors, every industry. This is true. You want to be careful that the dudes don't stand around and say things like, ugh, she's really difficult. God, she's such a what is she like on her beard? She's like so hard to work with. If you say that about a dude, it is that they are passionate, you know, that about what it is they're right. They're into it and they're being a dick because they care, right? Whereas if a woman does it, it's completely unacceptable and they don't have their shit together. And the little bit of respect that you have maybe earned is gone in a flash. So I feel like you can't outwardly show any of those things, and dudes are allies, of which there are many, just need to be mindful that if they are dealing with a director, I tell my friends, my really good friends, I'm like, no matter what, I don't care if she is a bitch. I don't care if she is a nightmare. Zip it. You know, even if somebody else from another part of set is like, oh man, did you see what she said, man? She's such a fucking bitch. The answer is like, no, I didn't notice. I just thought she was really, really passionate about that scene. Like, change the language and change the narrative, because otherwise, like, sets, people, I don't know how many sets you've been on, but people love to gossip and people love to do, it's like high school, sometimes middle school on set. So how do we stop all of that from getting into a situation where you're going to have no respect and also not be hired again, is like to make sure that our allies are not perpetuating the problem.
Yeah.
Accidentally.
Yes. I feel like I've been on enough sets. I think for me, I'm very kind of if somebody starts doing the gossipy thing, I just walk away. I don't need to be a part of it. I just walk away. I don't need to be a part of it. I mostly, when I am on set, I'm either talking to a fellow actor about comedy, or we're talking about the business, or we're talking about maybe if we're talking about politics, then we try to keep our volume low, you know. So you know,
Yes.
something. But yeah, I try to stay away from. I think for me sometimes, and I don't know if you ever go through this, Laura, but last year, was it last year? No, not last year. The year before that, 2019, towards the end of 2019, I got offered a gig for an Apple TV show out of the blue. They found me and they were like, "We want to offer you this role." So my episode is gonna come out. It's called Helpsters. It's like a remake of Sesame Street ish.
Yeah. My friend who directed your episode? Was it a woman?
I think it was a woman.
Was her name Shannon?
I think it was Shannon.
Shannon's my really good friend. She's amazing. She won an Emmy for Helpsters.
She was. Did she win an Emmy for Helpsters? What?
There's also Linda. Linda did that show, I think, too. There's a bunch of women. Anyway, Shannon is
amazing. She was amazing to work with. Yeah. I mean, she made it so effortless, and I was just like, "Is this even work? Like,
yeah.
How does this even work? Like, this is too much fun." But the one thing that I noticed is that my fellow co-star that was in the show with me, it was just, it's all Muppets, and then it's me, and then this other person. And I noticed that, at first I thought it was just in my head, but it wasn't. The one thing that I noticed about her is that, look, I think with stand-up comedians, it's a lot different temperament than actors, because we're a lot more open. We're just a lot more, we're just like very straightforward. We just say we're very good, sharp, and observant, and like the quick wit, right? And I think people really connect to that. So the director and the producer who were on board were like, they were just fucking loving me. They were like high-fiving me and shit because I was improving, and they were loving it, and they were like, "Oh shit, that's funny. Oh, Mona, yeah, keep that, right?" Yeah. So I see from the corner of my eye the actor who's with me, because she's not a comic, she's an actor, shrinking. I see her shrinking, right? So now I'm feeling bad, and I'm just like, "Oh God, I don't want her to feel like, I'm the fucking boss, and you're like not like, I don't want her to feel that way. Like, I want you to feel you're part of this. Like, come, like, be cool. Like, come, be a part of this, right?" And I just see her shrinking, and the more I try to talk to her, and the more I try to engage her, the more she like pushes me away. Is that a thing that directors experience, or is that just mostly among artists being insecure?
Yeah, I don't think that's true, because there's only ever one director on any given set. That's the one cool thing about that. So that comparative, that like, but you can be diminished by other crew members, that are making your life hard. I mean, a first AD can really mess you up. A really unpleasant DP, a really unpleasant producer or showrunner can really, really F you super hard. So, yes, I think it depends on how you handle it. And the more someone, is climbing up your ass, the more you might choose to shrink as opposed to, keep trying to exert your power. Like, sometimes it depends. TV shows are, being a guest director is a special kind of interesting political navigating scenario as opposed to a feature. Totally different.
Right. I bet.
I think what you're describing is mostly actor stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's and it's interesting because when I was leaving, I went to my room or whatever that they gave me, and I was changing everything, and I was like, "Oh, let me say goodbye to the actor." They're like, "Oh, they left already," and I was like, "Oh, how hurtful!" I was like, "Oh, that's too sad." Like, I wanted to say goodbye and see if they wanted to exchange and she was just like, "Fuck you, bitch, I'm out." And I was like,
"No, I think you got to do that now. You do that on set." Because once you go back to your room, you're just out. You got to get out of there. Get in and get out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't like that. I was just like, can I just lounge out for another 30 minutes? This is so fun, I don't know.
People who are newer to doing it are definitely staying, but people who like do it all the time, you're just like,
exactly.
Like, it's like, the cartoon, like dust underneath their feet behind them as they go. It's like that. They leave a trail. But I don't think it was personal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I've done that on other sets I've been for, like, commercials and different stuff like that. But I think I just genuinely had so much fun and genuinely felt so appreciated and genuinely felt so respected that I was just like, can I just hang out and just like watch you guys? Is that cool?
Yeah.
You know, it was like kind of like that. And like, yeah, cool, hang out.
Also, there's Muppets. I mean,
Exactly.
how cool is that? How
Yeah,
often do you get to see that?
Like Muppets like talking to you where you're just like, oh, and those actors are brilliant. They are brilliant. Their brain,
beyond.
wow. I mean, their minds are so fast. Like it's comics, like we're pretty sharp and we're pretty fast. But man, they are just like all. Even when the cameras are not rolling, they are just bam, 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 bam. I mean, it's amazing. Like working with Muppets is really like a dream come true for me.
I know, right? I think that's so cool that you got to do that. That's awesome.
I think for me, like I grew up in Pakistan, and we watched Sesame Street, and that was like the one closest thing, and to as an adult now to like work with like Muppets, that are like Sesame Street Muppets, you're like, what is happening right now? Like I'm just an immigrant child. Like
I know.
What is?
I feel like you've arrived.
I don't know.
Well, I feel like you did it.
I did. That's it. I need to wrap up my career. That's it. That was it. Helps her.
Nailed it. And done.
That's it. I'm leaving. That's exactly. I actually wanted to ask you: you're not from LA? Where are you born?
No, I'm from Northern California, a place called Placerville, which is near Lake Tahoe, or sort of in between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. Small town.
Okay. Got
near where they discovered gold.
Wow. Did you grow up in a family of artists?
No. I was the only artsy fartsy person in my family.
And did you like early on, like at what age were you just like, you know what, I'm gonna be a performer, I'm gonna be in showbiz?
My mom says, and I don't remember this because I don't have memories of when I was 3, but allegedly when I was 3, I pointed at the TV and said, I want to do that. And so apparently, and I used to perform around the house like you do. I was a very outgoing, but also leader type of child, because I also used to get in trouble for making the next door neighbor kids cross the street. So that was not allowed. The neighbors across the street were not allowed to cross the street without a parent. But I was like, hey guys, I'll watch the street. You guys cross the street and then we can play. So then Nick and Jenny would cross the street and we would all get in trouble because apparently I had to get in trouble too. So I was always bossing kids around. So it's sort of no real big surprise that directing. I think what's interesting is who knows what I was pointing out. When I pointed at the TV, my mom didn't know that women could be directors. And honestly, neither did I. And so I think I also pursued acting because that's the thing that you do, right? Women can be actresses and I liked performing and I loved being in front of people. I used to sing and dance, and my mom had me in dance class when I was young and all that sort of stuff. And then I found theater though really when I was in high school. I was a cheerleader, which but my grandmother
interesting.
It was my grandmother was a cheerleader, my mother was a cheerleader, and for some reason I was carrying on the family tradition of cheerleading, which was not my jam at all.
Yeah, they would never consider me as a cheerleader, like ever.
But I danced for a long time, right? So I had taken dance for a long time, and so it was a more fun thing to do than dance class, right? Because you learn these cheers but then you had to go with the dudes on the bus, the football dudes. You'd have to go. It's just not. You have to wear your little tiny outfit, even when it was snowing, because I grew up where it snows, and in the wintertime it's cold. And this is before you could wear sweats. It was a long time ago. Anyways, I found the theater, and theater would have rehearsals in the evening, and so I had to pick between continuing on with cheerleading or doing theater, and there was like no contest. I was like, theater! And so I totally became a complete and total theater nerd. I was down there all the time because the theater, we had this beautiful theater off away on the edge of campus, where they had built this thing. And So I spent all of my time there and I loved every second of it. Then I went to college for it. I was hooked. But again, I didn't realize that directing was the thing I wanted to do for a long time. Because it just didn't even occur to me as a possibility.
Right. It's interesting, right, Laura? Like, here you are, you're like, no, this is the thing. This is going to be my path. I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to be a performer. I'm going to be a theater, right? And then somebody like Bob comes along and Bob's like, that's not really your destination. Let me show you what your path is supposed to be. And then, boom, next thing you know, you're just like, oh,
yeah.
Oh my God, I could have been.
Well, I had given up actually before Bob came in and totally helped me out. I had given up acting. Actually, I had tried to. I came to LA. I went to college. I got my degree. I came to LA. I was doing improv. I was doing comedy. I was doing all kinds of stuff, and I was in this troupe of other improvisers that I had been with for many years. And I looked around one day. And I was not, this was in the 90s, and Janine Garofalo had all of my parts. She had all three of the parts.
Damn you, Janine Garofalo!
Were available for not the traditional looking lady parts. And more power to her. She's amazing. I think she's hilarious. Yeah. So, but I looked around at my blonde, beautiful, everything they're looking for actress friends who were doing like Kelly McGillis as the Top Gun character in San Diego at some convention center for, dudes selling insurance or whatever the fuck. And I just looked around one day and I was like, none of you guys are getting paid to act. And like, you guys are good. I'm good. You guys are good. And like, none of us are getting paid to do this. I got to get out of here. And so I was like, I was over it. I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. And I moved to Portland, Oregon. And I was ready to give it all up. But I decided I was going to quit acting, but I would teach an improv class so that I had people to play with and do improv because I love improv. And I think that regular people should take improv all the time. So I did that and then slowly ended up back in the theater scene. And there was a huge comedy boon in Portland at the time. So yeah. Then I ended up back into directing.
I did the All Jane Comedy Festival in Portland.
Yeah. All Dick, No Jane? All Jane, No Dick.
Yeah, have you Stacey Howell? Do you know who she is?
Yeah, that's Curious Comedy was where I was. That's where we used to do all of that stuff. I lived right down the street. Curious Comedy opened up, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on in here, guys?" And they were literally just still painting the walls, like it was not even done yet. And I talked to Stacey, and I was like, "Oh, I used to do improv." She's like, "Hey, you should join us." And I started teaching there, and I was part of the players there. And that's where, when I was talking to you before, we had an offline conversation about stand-up comics. We used to do tons of work with stand-up comics, and they were such amazing improvisers. That's where we did Neutrino Project. All that stuff was at Curious Comedy.
Wow.
Yeah. Stacey and our good buds.
I love Stacey. I love that festival. I just had the best time. The food is off the chain in Portland. I mean, off the chain. I mean, the food was amazing.
Also, Stacey's amazing.
Stacey's amazing. She's
shout out to Stacey.
Shout out to Stacey Howell. She's wonderful, and she's just, and it's very powerful, right? I mean, what she does with this All Jane Comedy Festival, like, it's so important. I feel like the conversation that we're having about changing the narrative and changing those things, where it's just like, well, you're a lady, so let me just give it to the dudes. It's more about people who are sitting in positions of power and decision-making spots. That when those change, then the conversation also changes, right? Because it all trickles down. Unless you're a Republican female, then go to hell. But that's the point. I feel like, people sitting in positions of power, making those shots, calling those calls is what changes things, right? I mean, Stacey's not like, oh, well, you didn't really do well on this show, so I'm just never gonna book. It's not like that. It's just like,
no. And those were the shows that I started directing with Stacey. Actually, Stacey's shows, her improv with she did 2-person shows, and then we would go places with them. So I started directing officially with Stacey.
Wow, I love that so much. No,
Yeah.
you're not with Disney anymore. You don't direct shows for Disney anymore, right?
Not right now. No, I do
Right.
not.
And did that stop because of the pandemic, or even pre-pandemic? You had just kind of like looking to transition to another.
Yeah, I'm looking to transition out of kids comedy into more teen drama. I'm looking for more vampires, werewolves, face touching, kissing, tromping through the Vancouver forest in the nighttime type of work. So things like that is what I'm really interested in. And so I'm trying to move out of multi-camera, which is its own special thing, into single camera. And so I sort of just made a break from that for now. And then the pandemic happened. And so now I'm on hold until we clear that up, which right now it's like insane out there. My friends that are directing, it's like so stressful, and like people are getting sick, and it's just like a mess.
You know, I was talking to, I have a doc, I think I mentioned to you, that I'm working on. And my DP on it was like, she told me, she was like, every set that I've been on in 2020 has had a COVID breakout. Every single one.
Yeah. Yes.
That's madness, Laura.
Yeah. And like people's lives are literally at stake.
Right.
But we have to make the things.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've mentioned this before on the live stream here. There was an article that came out in 2020 listing the non-essential jobs and then listing the essential jobs. And one of the top non-essential job they listed was artist. I'm like, artist?
It's very essential.
Very essential. Like, right, I would say right after nurse, I would put artist, right? What are people doing? Like, they're home watching Netflix,
TikTok.
TikTok, artists, people who are creating content. Like, as much as we don't want to give the TikTok people one the credit, they are also doing some kind of artistic stuff.
They're making people so happy.
Yes. 100%.
People love TikTok. I don't understand TikTok, but I'm told it's amazing.
I've recently been racking up videos and views on TikTok, so I'm really excited about it. You know, I've been starting to put up content on. I mean, TikTok is very easy to gain followers and very easy to gain. It's a lot easier than Facebook or whatever. You know, other social media. So it's a lot easier. What for you, Laura? Like, do you every so often then just go and like update your director's reel, or after a while you don't even need to do that? Like Patty Jenkins doesn't have a director's reel.
No, Patty does not. I had to make some shorts because that's what directors do. A reel is hard. People say directors need a reel, but for those of you who are directors, yes, make one because everyone says you need one. But what that really is questionably the cinematographer's work, or, you know, it's hard to know what the director actually did exactly. So director's reels are kind of a silly thing. But again, if you're a director or aspiring director, make one, have it on your website, but whatever. What you really need to do is be making short films. Short film, micro shorts, those kinds of things that show your point of view, show your style, show what you're into. So pre-pandemic, I made some shorts, and then they sort of slowed into the post process during pandemic times because it's like, there's not really a due date that is really imperative anymore. But yeah, I think you have to just make work. If you want to be a director, if that's what you aspire to do, then you have to make things. The challenge is that making things costs money.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's another barrier to entry, and why we don't see a lot of people of color, women of color specifically, is traditionally they don't have the same resources. So for example, you have a lot of dudes who are like, I got my camera when I was like 12 years old and I was making my things and I got this and I had all these resources available to me. And you see women of color who are like, I just got into filmmaking yesterday because I didn't know I could, and I don't have a camera and I don't know how it works, and I don't have a MacBook Pro thousands of dollar thing, and I don't have Avid, and I don't have all the things. Like, all those things cost a ton of money. Also, being able to go to AFI or USC or any of these schools without a scholarship is also a barrier to being able to like get into this business and start with that behind you, you know? So there's a lot of ways that being a woman, and even more difficult being a woman of color, is hard economically to be able to sustain yourself,
Yeah.
to make work, to show the work, to get the jobs.
Yes. Yes. I have noticed. I've come across two female directors, not Tara Meal, but another two female directors, women of color, who are married. Like their husbands, like that's a resource. That's a huge resource. They don't have to worry about paying the bills. Like the husband has got that covered. Like the house, the food, like groceries, like that's covered, right? So they can go on and do the things they do. So yeah, I mean, look, Laura, even for me, right? I don't have a husband or a boyfriend, anybody to pick up the tab on me, right? It's all me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to fund things. I have to pay for, my MacBook Pro and put roof over my head and put food in my stomach. And I don't have, I have been grinding my ass. That's why I work like 80, 100 hours a week, because it requires that much of, because I don't have that additional resource to help me out. So I have to supplement myself by fucking grinding my ass. In the meantime, my eggs are rotting and I'll probably never have children. But, those are the sacrifices that I have to make for my own.
Right. And then after you do that for X amount of years, let's not put a number on it, but after you do that for X amount of years, then you will be an overnight success.
That's right. That is if I get that break.
Yeah. If you get that break, you'll be an overnight success.
That's right. That's right. I was alarmed.
You've been grinding your ass for X amount of years.
I was alarmed when Tiffany Haddish finally started getting her breaks and started becoming a whole household name. People were like, "Oh my God, she just came out of nowhere." Nowhere.
Yes.
If you're not in the comedy world, you don't quite understand. Tiffany has been grinding it out. She was living out of her fucking car at one point. Like, what are you talking about overnight? Like, people don't people only see, that, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen that image they have of like a mountain of like, all the success and everything, and underwater is all the hard work and failure and disappointment, heartbreak.
Yes.
That's what it is, I think, for artists, for us. Like, I had my brother once call me up and he was like, "Man, I was watching this documentary, or I was watching this episode, like comedians in cars getting coffee. And, there were so-and-so, Jerry Seinfeld was driving this very fancy car. And I said to myself, man, I can't wait for my sister to make it so I can go hang out in her expensive house and in her expensive car." I was like, "Motherfucker, do you ever come and fucking contribute? Like, do you ever ask your sister, like, you need help? Like, fuck you. Like, do you want to be there when I'm successful?" But all throughout my struggles, all throughout me eating shit, all throughout my disappointments and heartbreak, you don't want to be there. But you want to be there to fucking fuck you. I love you, but fuck you. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't have somebody who's bankrolling you, which a lot of us don't, it becomes this impossible scenario, because longevity and tenacity and persistence are a lot of what contribute, right? That grinding for years and years and years and years. But the question is, economically, can you survive for years and years and years and years when shit is expensive? Right. And then at a certain point, when you're working 80 billion hours a week, year after year after year, do you just go like, fuck it, I'm going to go work at some corporate job that's like 9 to 5 that has health benefits and a pension, and, just, and go use those eggs, because that's what happens. That's what happens to women a lot of the time. And there is nothing wrong with that choice, because like, you get tired after a while, but can you last long enough? And without the financial backing of another person, oftentimes that becomes the barrier to being able to get over that hump. And it's really, I wish we talked about money more. Mm-hmm. And about like the earning power of women. Because like, if you're a woman and you're doing television directing, if you don't get X amount of number of episodes, if you don't earn X amount of money, you don't get your DGA benefits. And if you're not earning your DGA benefits, then you're paying, like everybody else, health, things. And all of this stuff starts to add up, right? And so if you can't sustain that, you're going to take another job. You're going to be a script supervisor. You're going to be a dialogue coach. You're going to be an editor. You're going to do these other things. And then as you get better and better, or you're esteem grows in that industry, of course, you're going to keep taking those jobs, which takes you farther away from being able to do the directing thing or being seen as a director. Like, you must not be that serious if you're over here earning money as a script supervisor or whatever. And it's just this really complicated mess. And I think that we should pay attention to making sure that women who are aspiring in comedy, in directing, in acting, and that sort of stuff, like, we have to support them financially, or, you know, be able to have good enough jobs that you can keep that roof over your head and put that food in your belly and not have to go into these casting couch situations in order to like compromise yourself to get the jobs. Like, that's how they've been getting away with it in the past. Luckily, the past mostly.
Yeah, but Laura, you also know that in our business, it's either feast or famine. Like, that shit needs to change, right? There needs to be like, you know, you have actors and actresses making like 30, 40 million dollars. It's just like, so for instance, right, Judge Judy made $75 million, right, in 1 year, right? Through the grapevine, I heard that her staff makes next to nothing, like next to nothing. The people who helped make that show successful. And I'm just like, man, you made 75 million. If you just took 5 million away, just 5 million, and you
spread it over the crew,
it makes a world of difference. Like, these people will work 10 times harder for you because they know you care for them, right? If I'm making $75 million, I'll take that fucking $5-10 million. I'd put it towards my staff. Be like, if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your. They will take care of your shit. End of story. There's no. It's been proven time and time and time again, right?
Yeah.
Just take care of your people. So to me, it was really disappointing that how greedy do you have to be like, you can't fucking give 5 million? You bet you made 75 million.
How many millions do you need?
How many millions do you need? Like, there has to be some kind of cap or something to be like, Jesus fucking Christ, man.
I think there's decency, right? Where's the decency is what I hear you saying too. Like, you know, come on, Judge Judy. Like, you know that everybody's making like $30,000 a year. You like throw these poor people a bone. Like, and like, do rich people know how much it costs to live in LA now? Because whenever Judge Judy moved here to Los Angeles, like, it was a quarter of expensive as it is now for whatever it was, right? Like, inflation in LA has gone so outrageously crazy high. Like, things are double when I moved here. And then I moved here in the 90s originally. And like, everything is twice as much. Housing is twice as much. Food is twice as much. Parking is twice as much. Parking tickets are twice as much. You know, like, all that stuff is twice as much. And I was just talking to a friend of mine. We came up together and it was like, what would we do now? Like, how would we live here now? I mean, do you have to live like 4 people to a 1-bedroom apartment when you're starting out here? Like, how do you make that work? Because if you're making, like, when I was a PA, when I first started here, I was making, I think, $400 a week.
Wow.
Right. And that's before taxes.
Wow.
And I was working 60 hours, 70 hours a week, right? Because that's what PAs work. You work like your ass off and you get paid nothing. And it's, you know, rite of passage and yada, yada. But if you're already poor and your parents aren't sending you money, or you're married to somebody who has a real job, or however money comes to you, if you have no backup, then you're scrambling, right? And so PAs are not making that much more now than we were back then, sadly. I don't know what they're making now, but it's not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I think that's a problem also in Capitol Hill, right? I mean, AOC had to call out Senator Chuck Schumer to be like, you're not paying your fucking interns? Pay your interns. Yeah. Pay your goddamn intern. If you claim yourself to be so progressive and so liberal and you're on the Democratic side and you work for the small people, fucking help them out. The ones who work for you to make you successful, for you to be able to do whatever the fuck you do.
Yes. And why, I mean, yeah, and capitalism is responsible for a lot of that. This greed that you're talking about is responsible for a lot of that. And so back to, you know, in my opinion, it's also just personal decency. Like, when are we going to get to the point where, you know, we all feel responsible for the people that we care about? And when you are a corporate leader, if you're an entertainment leader, you know, when you are someone who has so much more than everybody else, how are you going to do that? Which is, you hear the stories sometimes, right? Like you hear the story about Keanu Reeves giving everybody money and motorcycles or whatever, so there are the occasional exceptions, right, of people being very generous with the large amounts of money that they have, but sadly there's not enough of those stories.
I think Keanu Reeves is just such an exception. He's just an exceptional human being. Adam Sandler is also a really good dude. He also goes out and like really helps people out. He's also really wonderful. But I personally don't think there's enough people doing that. There's only a handful of people doing that. Yeah. And I think if a lot more people did that, I feel like the world would be a better place. I think it would a happier place, a more fulfilling place, a place where you don't have such level of disparity in the way that you do, because I think that's my beef too, right? Like even in comedy, there's just like this feast or famine. It's just like, how many more specials are you going to give to Kevin Hart at this point? Like Kevin is trying by the way, kudos to Kevin Hart on that. Kevin Hart has, his production company. He's trying to bring in younger talent. He's trying to bring them up, give them opportunities. So shout out to Kevin Hart for doing that, But it's like, you look at something like that and you're just like, you could give opportunities for people like myself, so I don't have to fucking, grind my ass and or just never even get the opportunity after all these years of sacrifice, after all, and Laura, I think the one also key thing that I'm going to bring in is that retirement, right? How long are you going to do that if you've just struggled all your fucking life trying to make it as an artist? You probably have very next to, if anything, in retirement. So by the time you hit 50, 55, 60, how much money do you have in retirement, if you have any? Or are you going to go depend on the government to try to help you out and live in some fucking, one like tiny little bedroom in fucking boondock somewhere because you dedicated your life to the arts, and the arts, and you just couldn't get the opportunities because you're a woman, you're a person of color, you don't have the resource, whatever, right?
That's why I'm so with you. The economics are the thing. Like I really, when we talk about this, that's the other big part of it, is if you're not earning enough money to earn pension at whatever it is you're trying to do, you are going to be a 65, 70-year-old woman with nothing to back you up. And God forbid you get sick, then you're extra fucked. But if you happen to be healthy and bopping around, you're going to work till what? You're 85? Right. Like you have to work until you literally croak.
That's right. What are you going to do? Get an Uber or fucking join Postmates? Like what are you supposed to do exactly?
Exactly. Because the system isn't going to take care of you, sadly.
Right.
And Jeff Bezos is going to keep his billions of dollars.
Listen, Jeff Bezos don't give a fuck about nobody. Okay, he's got
he does not.
Somehow he needs that extra money for his girlfriend's face, who keeps needing a fucking new face every goddamn fucking new year.
I love it.
I can't stand that hoe. I just can't stand her. I'm sorry. Too harsh, maybe. I don't give a fuck.
You're funny.
I just don't care. Laura, what are you working on? We're gonna start wrapping up. What are you working on? Have you been working on anything during the pandemic?
No, I'm teaching right now during the pandemic, which has been a blessing. I teach directing at AFI, the American Film Institute, and also I teach directing at USC. So I'm getting to work with very exciting, emerging, talented humans, which are super inspiring and inspire me. And that's been really a blessing during all of this, because even though we're doing different kinds of production, but those schools are handling things differently as far as like making art, but that art can still be made and your voice can still be developed, and figuring out what you're trying to say and all that stuff are still things we can do, and talk about storytelling and what is good storytelling. So that's been really amazing. But as far as like working on my own stuff, I have a couple things that my friends and I have put together that we're trying to pitch around, but it's COVID, so nobody cares. And, I've got, my shorts that I'm finishing. Again, it's COVID, nobody cares. And, but when COVID is over, everyone's going to care a lot about the projects that we have to pitch, and these shorts that are hopefully going to get me over into CW territory, freeform territory.
Yes.
I'm very excited about that. So little by little, wrote a novel. No big deal. Whatever.
Listen, novels. People write novels all
Wrote a
day.
novel.
I wrote.
Hey, I had a lot of time during COVID.
I mean, it's great. It was a great time to write and build and create. Right. That's how you and I got connected because I'm working on my stand-up special. So that's how.
Yes, I know it's very exciting.
I'm very excited and nervous and terrified at the same time.
I'm just excited. I'm only excited, Mona.
You're excited? Oh, that's awesome. That makes one of us. That's great. I actually wanted to ask you, have you seen the show called The Runaways? It's a Marvel series, The Runaways in Disney.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I know what it is, but I haven't seen it. Is it good? Should I watch it?
In that teen genre, face grabbing, kissing, teen drama.
That's how you people are in love, Mona. Just so you know, like if they touch your face, then that means that it's real love.
Got it. Mine is usually they just grab just my ass and then they just kind of work their way up. And I was
right. Then you're like, oh, you love me.
Yeah, when they grab my titty is when I really know they love me.
I love it. This is teenagers, Mona. It starts with the face.
I'm sorry. Mine's a little different. Mine just starts with the left titty and works its way to the right. It's like
no, but I'll watch Runaways. I love it. I haven't looked at that one, but I will. I watched Euphoria recently, and I was like, "Whoa!" Have you watched that?
No, it's Zendaya, right?
Yeah, she's real good. It's a real good show, but it is some shocking things go on in that nighttime telly for kids. Holy moly. Yeah.
Is it for teens though? No, it's more adult.
It's supposedly not for teens, and absolutely only teens are going to watch that. Parents are going to watch it like, what the fuck? But of course teens are going to watch it because who loves Zendaya more than teens? Nobody.
Yeah. I don't know what her demographic is. So I don't know.
I think it's everybody, but it's definitely younger people, right? So the demographics of youth are that you aspire 2 to 5 years older than you are. So if it's meant for 20 somethings, then, high teens are watching it. If it's meant for 15-year-olds, then, 12-year-olds are watching it. Like everyone's aspiring upwards. Remember when you were a kid, you're like, I'm a grown up. I know all the things. It's like that.
Really? I don't think I ever had that, Laura. I never was just like, I know.
I was like, I am a grown up. Stop telling me what to do when I was like 4.
Really? Yeah, we would get 2 across the face if we said something like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not saying I didn't, but I was not deterred from what I wanted.
You're like, ass whoopings were not going to keep me from adulthood.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Bring it on, Mom and Dad. Bring it on. We weren't, Laura, in our household, we weren't even allowed at dinner table to be like, when I grow up and when I have kids, we weren't even allowed to say that. It was just no.
Yeah.
There was no talk, which is abnormal. Now looking back on it, of course, I grew up in a really fucked up, dysfunctional household. But now looking back on it, it's just like, that's really abnormal to not be able to let your children express themselves that way.
Yeah. Like, I'm so lucky that I have a really incredible mom who was very, very much supportive of my brother and I. Anything we wanted to do, if I was like, I want to be an astronaut, she would have been like, sweet, let's figure out how to do that. That's like amazing. She was like really supportive, really creative in her own way of raising us as far as like letting us just go be and do whatever. And like when I was like, Mom, I'm going to be an actor, she was like, great, love it. I'm into it. She wasn't like, are you sure that you don't want to get an accounting degree? Which is what a lot of parents say to people who want to do. I mean, I can't tell you if I had a nickel for every actor that I met who was like, I got a degree in psychology, economics, whatever, because my parents were just told me that I couldn't get my degree. And then they go back to school anyway. So parents out there that are telling your kids not to get a theater degree, just let them do it. Right. Plus, it'll help them get whatever job because you can act like anything at the interview. So it's actually super helpful.
Put on a coat and just pretend like you're a doctor. It's like, so what are we looking at here?
Exactly. I could probably get a job as a doctor is all I'm saying because I am a trained actor.
Just get that male confidence and you're good.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah,
all
just
it is.
So what are we looking at here? Oh, it's hard.
Do a little man spread. Just act like you know what the fuck you're talking about. You're in.
You're like, heart surgery? Not a problem. Nailed it. You're like, nailed
Not
it.
a problem. I've done many. I do them all the time.
Broken
Real
a lot of
steady
hearts.
hands.
Yep, broken a lot of hearts, fixed a lot of hearts. What's up?
I think you should get a job as a heart surgeon, Mona. I think you'd be great at it.
You know, let me tell you, Laura, if I ever, and believe me, I was recently talking about quitting the business altogether because I'm so fucking frustrated. I was thinking, I was recently thinking, I was just like, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a lawyer who's actually just commented, said, yeah, man, Robert. Robert's a very successful immigration lawyer. And I was talking to him and I was like, man, I'm so fucking frustrated. Like, maybe I should just quit the business. Like, maybe I should just go to law school. He's like, try it. Give it a shot.
Oh.
If I ever quit the business, I would probably become a lawyer.
Yeah, well, you could also go to law school and still work the business. And then when you get out of law school, you'll be a lawyer and a stand-up comic.
Oh, God. I don't know. I mean, law school takes a lot out of you, Laura.
Just for like 2 years, though.
2 years?
2 years. 3 years. Is it 3 years? I don't know. Ask your friend.
But, so did you know?
Robert.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Robert. So Robert also takes improv because he's smart and amazing. Yes. But the other thing that I've learned, did you know that there's a law in California that if you work under a licensed lawyer or like established lawyer, you can actually rack up your hours and then go take the bar, and you don't even have to go to law school.
Do that. Does Robert need an assistant? Get up in that.
Right?
There you go. You can just work your way up.
Robert said 3 years. Mr. Perkins said 3 years. It takes 3 years.
It's only 3 years of like totally amazing, immersive learning. I used to work at the USC Law School, and one of the many jobs, I've literally worked at every job there is in this town. One of them was at the USC Law School as an administrative assistant. So I know a lot about law school. That one's a real good one.
Yeah. So I think that would be the only thing that I would become.
And then you can help people. It's performative. If you got one of those ones where you can get up in front of people, it'd be great. I can see it, Mona. Not that I'm saying give it up. I'm just saying you'd be great at it. Right? I agree, Robert. She'd be great at it.
Like, you'd be great, Mona. That's very kind of you. Yeah. I just want to get up there and be like, Your Honor. I just want to say that.
Exactly. Like, you could also make a nice pension. You could help other people. You could change the world. You can do a stand-up comedy, but you could also do it as a lawyer. Not saying give it up. I'm just saying it's out there.
Now you got me thinking. People
go to like night school and like go to grad school while they're doing other things all the time. That's right, true. Robert? Tell her it's possible.
Robert's like, yes, do that.
Yeah, you can do it.
If I ever become a lawyer, I would probably want to become do criminal law. I don't know why I'm so trying to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like dudes with like tattoos on their necks, like showing.
Yeah.
We're like, what's up?
And get them out of jail, or do you want to get them out of jail, or do you want to put them in jail?
Depends on how well. If they don't pay me well, then fuck them. Put them in jail. If they pay me well, then
I like this career path, and so there's something to do with lawyers and actors. I think because I was also like, I'd be a really great lawyer because I think there is that performative aspect of it where you have to get up in front of people and you get to talk, or at least that's how they do it in movies. I don't know if that's how it really is all the time. Probably mostly sitting in an office typing up bullshit, but you know. Right. It's not like the movie lawyers who get to have these amazing monologues.
Right.
Or maybe it is. I don't know, Robert. I'll have to tell you how it is.
Robert has to. Robert's a very successful immigration lawyer, and he goes by the immigration professor.
Oh, that's very helpful because I feel like a lot of people probably really, really, really need his help, especially now more than ever.
Yeah. I mean, Robert has been on my live stream. I mean, we had a very in-depth conversation about, about the kids that are being put in jail, or rather in, cages, and, why this whole conversation, what people come out and make arguments. It's like, well, why don't you come the legal way? It's just like, look, if you're escaping fucking poverty, you know how much it costs to come to America. Spend a lot of money coming to America, like a lot. And we were one of the fortunate ones that my dad made enough money to be able to do that.
until you've emigrated, I feel like you don't get to say shit about trying to emigrate to this fucking country.
That's right.
Because I feel like anybody who was born here has no idea how hard it is to get here legally, illegally, and just like in general get here and stay here. So I feel like until you really know what that is or have family that's had to deal with that, I feel like you don't just get to be like, God, just follow the rules. It's like going to the DMV and getting your license. I don't know what the problem is, because it's not like that.
Some people, Laura, some people think, and I think Robert taught me this, like some people think that applying for a citizenship is you just fill out a bunch of forms and then you just submit it and then you just wait for a green card.
Yes, that's what people think. That's why I'm saying like they don't get to have an opinion since they don't understand how the system doesn't work. The system that is bullshit to begin with really also doesn't work, even if you follow the rules.
That's right. That's right. Laura, it took me like over 15 years just to become a U.S. citizen. Yeah. 15 years, thousands and thousands of dollars later, right? Yeah. In the process, losing my father, couldn't attend his funeral. They wouldn't let me travel, right? They told me that they were going to put a 10-year ban on me if I traveled to see my own father's funeral. Yeah. Right? And
you had to marry somebody, right? I mean, you fell in love, but also you married somebody so that you could be a citizen. Yeah.
That's right. I had to bear, and even that marriage, like, that was a 9.5-year long marriage. It wasn't like, hey, we just got married for papers. It was like, no, we fucking married for real.
That was a real marriage. Yeah.
And even
had you not done that, it might have been even more difficult and challenging for you to obtain your citizenship.
Forget it. Like a lot of people don't realize that even if you do come to America, and even if I had won it in a green card lottery, let's say, right? You still have to fucking make a living. You still have to survive. How are you going to make a living? How are you going to how much money are you going to make? The cost of living is so high. Like, people don't even factor those things in.
I know. That's why I feel like they don't get to be part of the conversation if they don't understand how the whole situation works. And yet you have these people who are like, just follow the rules, just come in legally. What's the problem? It's so frustrating. People not understanding.
I agree. I 100% agree. Laura, where can people follow you? Do you have some?
I have an Instagram that I'm woefully not paying attention to during the COVID pandemic, so just don't give a shit. But it's A Laura James. Remember that A, my friends. It's very important at Instagram. And then I'm also on Facebook, but I'm literally never there because we're all supposed to get off Facebook, guys, eventually. So I mean, yeah, apparently. Okay. It's allegedly a very evil place, and eventually we're gonna do something else. TikTok, I don't know what we're doing, but I'd say Instagram is the best place.
We're gonna TikTok the shit out of this. Is what we're
gonna TikTok the shit out of 2021 through 22 before there's something else that's different.
Laura, let me tell you something. I don't even want to say that 2021 is my year. I just want to stop saying that period from this point on in my life.
I love it.
I just want to be like, I'm just going to do the best I can and see what's up.
Yes. And you know what? It's all going to fall into place eventually, whatever that is. Here's my belief. This is what I really, truly believe is true. Okay. When we are, however we get there, we're going to end up where we're supposed to be. We're maybe going to go the fast route, or maybe we're going to go the scenic, windy route. But eventually, we are going to end up where we were supposed to be anyways. So you don't have to stress about the path and the journey that you're on, because you're going to get there. You're going to get there eventually.
Right. I agree. Thank you for that reminder, Laura. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. My friend, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time and being so generous. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. That was so kind of you to even have me on your super awesome show.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
I'll send you the link to the flip the script thing, and maybe you could put it in the thing. It's hilarious and please also very exciting.
I would love to see it. Thank you so much. Laura, have a good night. I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Good night. Bye.
That was the lovely Laura James. I enjoyed that conversation so much. I know you guys did too. If you haven't followed me on my YouTube channel, please do. You can go to youtube.com/Mona Sheikh, my last name and the word comedian. I'm also on TikTok. You can follow me on TikTok at Mona Sheikh Comedian, you guys. That's right. I am TikToking it every day. I'm trying to post as much cool videos as I can. Please do go watch my playlist, Mona's Rants, Minority Reports podcast, my stand-up. I'm getting so close to wrecking up my hours to be monetized on YouTube. So if you guys could go and subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch those playlists, that would mean the absolute world to me. So it would be amazing. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mona's Comedy, and of course on Facebook at Mona Shake Comedian. You guys have a lovely evening. Stay safe out there. I will see you tomorrow with a brand new guest. Have a good night.